If your blues solos always sound boring and repetitive, as if you're just noodling up and down the same old pentatonic shape, this video is going to help you fix that problem. Most guitarists, they run into a wall when it comes to soloing over a blues, and it's not because they're not good enough or they have a lack of talent. It's because no one's ever shown them how to connect the scales they're playing to the chords they're supposed to be improvising over the top of. In this video, I'm going to break down the simplest way to follow the blues changes so your soloing sounds more connected and melodic. Now, this video was inspired by a lesson I had recently with one of my intermediate students. If you're an intermediate who wants to level up on the instrument without being confused or overwhelmed, you can hit the link in the description to find out more about my program. Now, let's start super simple. A blues is typically made up of 3 dominant 7 chords. We have the 1 chord, we have the 4 chord, and we have the 5 chord. Right? But here's the thing. Most people, to play over these 3 chords, they're just using the same old minor pentatonic scale shape. But that's a bit confusing, right? If we have 3 dominant 7 chords, why are we using 1 minor scale shape? That doesn't really make sense, right? So let's fix that by using scales that are supposed to be played over dominant chords instead of using scales that are for minor chords. Step 1, learn to play your chords. So let's look at a blues in A. I can play the 1 chord. This would be A dominant 7 like this. Then I can play the 4 chord. This would be D dominant 7 like this. And then I can play the 5 chord using that exact same shape. I just have to move it up 2 frets. This gives me E dominant 7. And that's kind of your blues progression right there. Once you can do that, move on to the next step. Step 2, pair each chord with a pentatonic shape. So for the 1 chord, which we played like this, I'm going to pair the 2nd pentatonic position. And the reason I'm doing that is because they exist right on top of each other. You can see this chord and this scale shape. You barely have to move your fingers to find them. Now for the 4 chord, I'm going to pair this with the 1st pentatonic position. And then for the 5 chord, I do the exact same thing, I just move it up 2 frets on the fretboard. So what I want you to practice is to play the chord, then play the scale that exists around that chord, then to the 4 chord, then the 5 chord, the 4, then the 1. And you can do the blues turnaround if you want. The important part to understand here is that when the chords change, you actually have to follow the scale shape changing as well. Don't fall into the habit of just playing that 1 minor pentatonic box over all 3 chords. So here's what it would sound like if I improvised over a blues in A, just using these 3 pentatonic shapes. Step 3, add in just 2 extra notes to the pentatonic shapes that we already know how to play. So when we add in these 2 extra notes, we're going to end up with Mixolydian scale shapes. The reason we're going to use Mixolydian scales is because the intervals you can find inside of a Mixolydian scale are going to be the same intervals you use to create a dominant 7 chord. So that means we can find a root, a major 3rd, a perfect 5th, and a minor 7th inside of a Mixolydian scale shape. This means the Mixolydian scale is specifically designed to be played over the top of dominant 7 chords. So when we use these scale shapes, it sounds so much more melodic and intentional because we're going to be hitting those chord tones of the dominant 7 chord. So let's look at how to quickly add in 2 extra notes to the pentatonic shapes we already know how to play to turn them into Mixolydian scale shapes. So for our 1 chord, we previously learned that we can attach it to this pentatonic position number 2. we're going to add in 2 extra notes to this shape. We're going to add in a perfect fourth and a minor seventh. Now, if the intervals are a bit confusing to you, don't worry about that. All you have to worry about at the moment is just learning this scale shape, and it looks like this. And you can hear that scale shape sounds so much nicer over a dominant 7 chord. It's because the scale is designed to be played over dominant 7 chords. So that's the shape you want to use over the 1 chord. What about the 4 chord? We previously learned that this is attached to that pentatonic position 1. Again, all we have to do is add in 2 extra notes to this shape. That's going to give us a Mixolydian scale. We're going to add in a major third and a major sixth. Again, if the intervals sound confusing to you, don't worry about them. Just learn this shape for the moment. It looks something like this. And again, you can hear when you use this shape over the 4 chord, it's designed for dominant 7 chords. It sounds so much nicer. Now for the 5 chord, we just move that exact same shape up 2 frets. And that gives us all the scale shapes we need to play over the dominant 7 chords in a blues progression. Now it's important to understand that the 2 extra notes we're adding in, they're not random notes. These 2 extra notes are chord tones from our dominant 7 chords. When we play the scale with all of these chord tones in them, it's going to sound more melodic and connected to the chords because it has the actual notes of the chords inside of it. So that's why we want to be using these Mixolydian scale shapes. So when I play along to the blues changes and I use these Mixolydian shapes, I can improvise something that sounds like this. Now here's a bonus tip that's going to make your phrasing sound more melodic and intentional. Play less notes. Just because you know a scale shape that's on all 6 strings, that doesn't mean you have to use all of the strings. Think about it. Think about your favourite solos, the most beautiful, melodic, improvised lines from your favourite players. I guarantee you they're very rarely playing a phrase that goes across all 6 strings in an entire scale shape. Maybe if there's some really technical shredder, they might be doing that. But for the majority of really melodic and beautiful solos, they're playing a really nice phrase on just a couple strings. You don't need to use all 6 strings inside of a scale shape. So here's something that has helped me make my phrasing sound more melodic and intentional. Try playing around the chord that's hiding inside of your scale shape, and that's only going to be on around 3 strings. So let me break that down for you. We have this 1 chord, which we can play like this. Again, we're going to leave the root note out and we're just going to look at these notes on the D, G and B string. This is essentially the chord for our 1 chord. And again, this is inside that scale shape that we just learned. Try to phrase around this chord. And your phrase is going to sound more melodic and intentional and less random and chaotic. So stick to just 3 strings. You don't have to use the entire shape. Right, you don't have to use all of those strings, just play around these 3. And then do the same thing for the next chord as well, so the 4 chord comes around. Again, forget about the root for the moment, let's just look at these 3 notes on the D, G and B strings, and play the scale shape that's around just those 3 notes on those 3 strings. And then do the same thing for the 5 chord as well. And then back to the 1 chord. And that's going to make your blues phrasing sound so much more intentional, more melodic and less random and chaotic. So here's what it would sound like over a blues progression if I just focus on playing around 3 strings instead of using the entire scale shape. So if this video lesson made your brain light up a little bit and you want to learn more about improvisation, this is exactly what I do with my one-on-one students every single week. Whether you want to sound more melodic, break out of those pentatonic boxes, or just feel more confident on the fretboard, I can help you get there through using the simplest and easiest method to understand possible. If you want to learn more, hit the link in the description to head to my website to find out more about my program. But if you still want to stay on YouTube, you should check out this video over here. It goes into detail behind how to solo with triads, how to use triads and pair them with scale shapes to sound melodic, and solo through chord changes. If you want to fix that problem, watch this video over here.